I lost so much aura today, and let me explain why. So, my sleep schedule has been completely cooked lately. I took a nap yesterday. I couldn't fall asleep until 3 a.m. Woke up at 5:30 in the morning, but I got up, got dressed, polo, khakis, boots, and yeah, I told myself today was going to be different. And it was because today was the day I finally got into the OR or the operating room. So I've been waiting for this for a while. I wasn't going to let a rough night stop me because I was actually supposed to start this last week. But as I said in my previous video, orientation got canceled, so it got moved and pushed back one entire week. So I drove to the hospital and I actually arrived an hour early. I put on my scrubs, waited outside the OR, and it was operating room 15. And I was nervous, but it was the good kind of nervous, that kind that means that something actually truly matters to me, right? And about 30 minutes of waiting in, I walked up to one of the nurses who was preparing the OR room, right? And I tried to be calm, professional, and I asked her, "Is this OR 15 scheduled with Dr. Sue?" And she looked at me and she said, "No?" question mark. And it turned out that I was in the wrong medical center hospital. So, yeah, it wasn't my fault. It was just a miscommunication from the coordinator. Yeah, but just standing there with the scrubs in the wrong building, I didn't feel like I could blame anyone but myself. And I ran back to my car and I sat in traffic for 30 minutes. And when I finally got to the right location, there were multiple buildings, there's multiple hospitals. So I accidentally went to the primary care building first. And they were like, "Yeah, you're in the wrong hospital." So they sent me across the street to where the surgeries were occurring. So yeah, at this point, I had burned through every last drop of aura that I had within me, and yeah, it was just so embarrassing and low key. I was more panicked than embarrassed at that point. But yeah, I made it. I rushed in. I changed into scrubs again, and somehow I got into the OR just in time. And I want to tell you guys right now that everything happened after those doors closed made everything worth it. So I'll talk a little bit about the surgery. So this procedure, it was a LIT, which is laser interstitial thermal therapy, and the patient had glioblastoma, which is uh, glio meaning glial cells, which are a type of brain cells. And more specifically, these are the astrocytes. Sorry, a nerd moment there. And the suffix oma means tumor. So this was tumor of the glial cells of the brain, right? And um, the sad thing was that he is a recurring cancer patient, right? He has a brain tumor, and this is not the first time he has had this. So he has undergone another procedure before this, right? But because he had cancer, he was going through chemotherapy, had a lot of radiation from all the things that he had to do to make sure that the tumor hasn't spread or anything. We had to do a minimally invasive surgery, right? So it was actually really interesting because they drilled a right burr hole inside of his skull and they used the MRI, right? And what they did with the MRI was that they heated up the temperature of the catheter that they put in, and basically these thermal electrodes destroyed the tumor. And it was so interesting because it was more analytical and logical of how you're gonna drill the hole, where you're gonna insert it, rather than like technical, right? Like the normal surgeries that you guys would expect, like cutting open the skull, like a craniectomy or a cranioplasty, right? And it was honestly one of the most remarkable things that I've ever watched in my life. Um, but shifting away from the surgery itself, there was something that really stuck to me in the OR room. And in like a surgery room, they have like a TV where they show like the patient information and everything. And I was just kind of like a deer in the headlights just watching his information. So he was born the same year as my dad, and he had diabetes, which my dad also has. And it was just so heartbreaking to me because quietly inside of me, I imagined my dad on that table. And I don't know how to fully describe what that felt like. Heartbroken doesn't fully cover it, and grateful doesn't either, right? It was both of those things at once, just tangled up together. And it was so one of the things that was so saddening was in the photo, he was just smiling and he was there fighting for his life. The second or third time going through chemo, going through this, and all I could think about was how lucky I was, how much I take for granted, and it just made me be so much grateful for the things that I have right now. And so I stood there, and as they were operating, I prayed. I prayed very silently in the OR. I prayed that the surgery would go smoothly, that he would go home to the people waiting for him, and that his smile would be there on the other side of this. And yeah, the procedure was 6 hours, and I was very observant. I asked questions. I talked to the resident physician. I talked to the MRI technologist, talked to the anesthesiologist. But yeah, speaking of the anesthesiologist, something else opened up for me during that time. And the anesthesiologist, he was just so calm, like the whole procedure. Like he had so much aura, and he was just monitoring vitals. He was very composed, writing some emails in between, and there was something about the energy that I noticed about them. And it looked like such a low cortisol job. I know I'm not giving them enough credit, but it was such a low cortisol job, and it made me think, oh, maybe anesthesiology wouldn't be that bad, right? But watching him work and watching his resident physician also work, I felt a new pathway open for me, right? I'm not saying that it's completely a path, I'm just saying that it's a possibility or an option that I'm going to keep open. And so the procedure finished around 3, and I drove home. I ate my first meal of the day, and I completely knocked out for 3 hours. And when I woke up, I just laid there for a minute, and I was like, wow, I feel so accomplished, revitalized, and genuinely blessed, right? Not in like the surface level way, but in the way where you actually mean it. And yeah, did I show up to the wrong hospital that morning? Yes. Did I lose every single ounce of aura I had left in me? Yes. But this day was still one of the best days I've ever had in a very long time. And yeah, I'm gonna go back next week. I'm gonna watch a couple more surgeries before I go back to school. So before I end this, tonight while I'm winding down, um, I'm gonna start brainstorming, and it's because I want to build an AI receptionist. I know it's starting to become a more crowded space, but I want to get it running, right? It's flexibility, it's a step towards the freedom I've been talking about, and it's part of building something that's mine. And I haven't started it yet. But thinking about that man in the OR, the one who's smiling in his photo, it reminded me that time isn't something you can just assume you have, right? So I need to start, and I will. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys very soon.